At 2:17 a.m., targets inside Iran were identified, verified, and marked for strike. Minutes later, they were gone. No long meetings, no delayed approvals, no human hesitation. Just data, decisions, and destruction. And this is what makes it different. Because this time, it was not just humans choosing the targets, it was AI. So the real question is, how did thousands of targets get selected and hit so fast? And more importantly, who is actually in control? To understand this, you need to zoom out. Not years, not decades, just weeks. Since late February, reports suggest between 7,000 to 15,000 targets have been struck across Iran. Missile sites, storage depots, command centers, internal security hubs. The scale is massive, but that is not the real story. The real story is the speed. In traditional warfare, targeting takes time. Analysts review satellite images. Signals intelligence gets verified. Commanders debate risks. Then maybe a strike is approved. That process can take hours, sometimes days. But now, the timeline is collapsing. And this is where things change. The Pentagon has expanded its use of advanced AI platforms. One of the most talked about is Palantir, a system designed to connect massive streams of data, satellite feeds, drone surveillance, intercepted communications. It does not just collect information, it links it. It finds patterns humans might miss. And then it suggests targets. But this is the part most people miss. The AI does not just analyze, it prioritizes. It ranks targets by importance. It predicts movement. It even estimates where something will be before it gets there. That means decisions are no longer reactive. Now think about what that does to the battlefield. A missile launcher does not need to be seen firing. It just needs to match a pattern. A convoy does not need to be confirmed hostile. It just needs to behave like one. And suddenly, the window between detection and strike shrinks to minutes. This is what military planners call the kill chain. Find, fix, track, target, engage. For decades, that chain had friction, delays, doubts, human bottlenecks. But now, AI is removing those gaps. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because speeding up the kill chain sounds efficient, but it also reduces time to question, time to verify, time to hesitate. Now layer that onto Iran, a country with one of the most dispersed missile programs in the world. Facilities spread across cities, hidden in mountains, embedded near civilian zones. Destroying that network is not simple. It requires speed and precision. And according to multiple reports, up to 80 to 90% of Iran's ballistic missile production capability has already been degraded. That is a massive claim. And estimates vary, but even partial accuracy points to something significant. This is not just about hitting targets. It is about overwhelming a system, hitting so many nodes so quickly that recovery becomes impossible. But that raises another question. If AI is accelerating strikes this fast, what happens when the data is wrong? Because AI does not understand war. It recognizes patterns. It calculates probabilities. It makes recommendations. But it does not feel consequences. And this is where tension starts building inside the system itself. Reports suggest internal disagreements in Washington, concerns about how fast decisions are being made, concerns about oversight, even a high-level resignation tied to disagreements over pressure and strategy. Details remain contested, but the signal is clear. Not everyone is comfortable with this speed. And here is why that matters. Because once you speed up war, it is very hard to slow it down. Every successful strike reinforces the system. Every confirmed hit builds trust in the AI. And slowly, human judgment starts stepping back, not because it has to, but because the machine is faster. And this is the turning point most people do not see. This is not just a new weapon. It is a new way of making decisions. The battlefield is no longer just physical. It is data-driven, algorithm-driven, time-compressed. And the side that processes faster strikes first. But that leads to something even more serious. If one side uses AI to accelerate war, the other side must respond. And when both sides are moving faster, the margin for error disappears, which means one mistake, one misidentified target, one wrong pattern could trigger something much bigger. So the real issue is not just how many targets were hit, it is how quickly the system decided they should be. And once that process is trusted, it becomes the new normal. But we are not there yet. Because behind the speed, behind the strikes, there is something else happening, something quieter, something political. And this is where the story takes a different turn. The strikes did not just increase, they multiplied. Faster decisions led to faster attacks. Faster attacks led to more targets. And suddenly, speed was no longer a tool. It became the strategy. But here's the part that changes everything. When war moves this fast, control starts to slip. not visibly, not instantly, but quietly in the background. Because every system has limits, even AI. It depends on data. And in war, data is never perfect. Signals can be spoofed, movements can be staged, patterns can be faked. And this is where things get dangerous. If the system learns from flawed data, it starts making confident mistakes. Imagine this. A convoy moves at night. It follows a pattern seen before. The AI flags it, ranks it high, recommends a strike. But what if the pattern was copied on purpose? What if it was meant to trigger that response? This is not science fiction. This is modern deception. And this is the part most people miss. The faster the system reacts, the easier it becomes to manipulate. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. Iran is not just a target. It is adapting, dispersing assets, reducing signatures, changing behavior, trying to confuse the system. Because if you cannot outrun the strike, you confuse the data behind it, and this creates a new kind of battlefield. Not just missiles versus defenses, but data versus deception, algorithms versus adaptation. And this is where tension spikes again, because both sides are now racing, not just to strike faster, but to think faster. Inside Washington, that pressure is being felt. Reports point to disagreements over how far this should go, how much authority should be given to automated systems, how much human oversight remains. And this is not just a technical debate, it is a moral one. Because when decisions happen in minutes, accountability becomes unclear. Who approved the strike, the analyst, the commander, or the system that ranked the target? That question does not have a clean answer, and that is the problem. At the same time, political pressure is rising. Allies want results, rapid results, visible results, and AI delivers that. It shows efficiency, it shows impact, it shows numbers, thousands of targets processed, thousands of strikes executed, but numbers can hide complexity. And this is where things get even more serious. Because degrading 80 to 90% of missile production sounds decisive, but it does not mean the threat is gone. It means the remaining systems become more valuable, more hidden, more unpredictable, which makes future targeting even harder, even riskier. And now the system must work with less visibility while still moving at high speed. This is the paradox. The more successful the strikes become, the harder the next ones get. And this is where escalation risk grows. Because when clear targets disappear, decisions rely more on prediction, more on probability, less on certainty. And that is when mistakes happen. And now add one more layer. Information control. Reports suggest pressure around how this war is being covered. Concerns about narratives, about what is shown and what is not. Because perception matters. If the operation looks precise and controlled, support stays stable. If mistakes become visible, everything changes. So there's pressure to move fast, and pressure to look accurate at the same time. And this creates a system that rewards speed, even when caution might be needed. But here is the final piece, the part that truly defines this moment. This is not just about Iran. It is not just about one conflict. It is about a shift in how wars will be fought. For decades, power meant bigger weapons, stronger defenses, more troops. Now, power means faster decisions, better data, smarter systems. The battlefield is compressing. Hours turn into minutes. Minutes turn into seconds. And humans are no longer at the center of every step. They are starting to move to the edges, supervising instead of deciding. And if this trend continues, the next wars will not be won by who has more force. They will be won by who processes faster, who adapts quicker, who controls the algorithm. That is the real shift. Because once war reaches this speed, there is no pause button. And that leads to one final question. If a machine can identify and prioritize thousands of targets in minutes, what happens when it faces another machine doing the same thing? That is not a future scenario. That is where this is heading. And if that moment comes, decisions will happen faster than humans can react, which means the most important choices may no longer be fully human. That is the real story behind these strikes. Not just what was hit, but how it was decided. Because once you trust the machine to choose the target, you are also trusting it with the consequences. And in modern war, those consequences do not stay contained, they spread.